My boyfriend, who died of a drug overdose, appeared in physical form. And this is the piece that nobody believes. Nobody really wants to hear this is possible, but he was complete. And he was in his physical body, and he was wearing the exact same outfit that I saw him in. He had the exact same smile on his face. And I looked at him, I'm like, I cannot do this. And he walked right over to me and literally placed his hand on my cheek. I can still just feel the frequency of it. And he said, I'm here to teach you that separation is just an illusion.
Still have questions? Well, join me live for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll answer your questions, and you might see a familiar face. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Raquel Rayna, who had a shared death experience, and today she's going to share that with us for the first time. So, Raquel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me and for the work you do. It's a true honor.
Oh, I feel the same because I feel like we're all contributing to helping wake each other up. So I'm excited that you're going to share these couple of shared death experiences for the first time. So I want to start there. We'll also get into some other things that you're working on. Now, as far as the shared death, I want you to just share it in whatever way makes sense for you.
Okay, so yeah, the experiences have been very, very profound for me. And it's one of those things that is hard to talk about because you go to share and people are sort of, resistant. So it isn't something that I've shared often. So thank you for giving me the space, and I'll do my best to kind of go through all the details of how this unfolded. So the first experience was back in 1999. So I was still in my 20s, and at that time I was a performance artist. So I had a multimedia performance group that merged music, dance, uh, and aerial arts. So it was a little mini Cirque du Soleil, if people have ever been to Cirque du Soleil. And it was all created through manifestation, visioning, working with shamans. And we created this incredible experience in San Francisco. But it was wrought with a lot of drama. And so I was a trapeze artist. It's very bizarre now because I can't imagine myself that I can actually do it now that I'm in my 50s. But so we were having a performance, and this one particular night, I was sitting in my car right before the performance, and I just had this resistance. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go. I just knew there was something that was very ominous that I was walking into. So I go into the theater, I go into the stage and preparing for the performance. And I come to find out that my ex-boyfriend is in the audience as the videographer. And so I just know the energy is off. I'm nervous. So that performance, I am beginning normally. I'm doing this trapeze work where it's literally kind of flying over the audience and then flying back on the stage. And somehow during the midst of this performance, and part of it, after analyzing, part of it was the drama and my ex-boyfriend watching me and just the pain of it all. And so I was in the middle of the performance, my hand slipped. I was grabbing the trapeze, and I fell, and it was just such an instantaneous crash to the ground. And I just blacked out and just saw white. And so at that moment, the experience that I had was just whiteness kind of taking over my body, and sort of an angelic presence moving through my body. Now, so this is not an NDE, I didn't die. It's not a near death experience. And I'm going to get to the shared death experience of how this was merging with somebody who was at that exact moment making their transition. But my body was lifted off the ground by some type of light angel and kind of moved me backstage. And then I was completely unable to move for the next 3 weeks. My body was um, completely out of alignment. I mean, really, luckily, I did not die and I did not, was not paralyzed. I was in my 20s. And we went through a series of bringing in shamans and healers on my body and hands on healing. And I was able through a long period of time to heal my body. But while I was completely knocked out um, during those 3 weeks, we come to find out that the boyfriend that was presently in my life that night, so it was probably like the next day, my best friend comes into my room crying, and she said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but Gabe died last night." So the moment that my fall happened, the person that I was dating at the time made his transition. And so what I believe the angels that were coming through were his soul making his transition, and we were having this kind of crash moment where we merged and I was able to lift myself off the ground. I was moved, not by my ability to move because I could not walk at the time. So, as I was healing, I was connected to his soul and we were having communications. And I feel like at that moment, the doorway to the other side began to be open because that was the first of another, really two other shared death experiences, one of them more profound with my dad and with my mom. And I am not a medium. Okay. This is not a skill that I learned. I cannot do it on call, but when there's somebody who's really close to me, I've been able to move into those realms with them. And so um the next it was probably about 3 weeks later, I was in the living room and I was sitting on the couch, and Gabe, who was my boyfriend at the time, who made his transition, appeared in physical form. And this is the piece that nobody believes. Nobody, really wants to hear this as possible, but he was complete and he was in his physical body and he was wearing the exact same outfit that I saw him in. He had the exact same smile on his face. He was in physical form. And I looked at him. I'm like, I cannot do this. I cannot. And he's like, you're fine. You're fine. And he walked right over to me and literally placed his hand on my cheek. I can still just feel the frequency of it. And he said, I'm here to teach you that separation is just an illusion. Yes, yes, yes. And I've been connected with his soul ever since. And the amount of miracles and the amount of communication that I've had with him has been so, so profound. And the little miracles around it have been so unbelievable. Like songs that, he had made me tapes, this was the year 2000, he would make me tapes and very obscure songs. Like I would have a thought of him and walk in. So it's more than that. It's like after the experience of him appearing, I did speak to a spiritual teacher and talk to her about it because I was so overwhelmed and blown away by what had just happened. And she said that that was the whole reason for our entire relationship, that we had made a soul contract because we had only really dated for, a, maybe 3, 6 months. And the tragedy of his death, he's in his 20s, was that he died of a drug overdose. And so when you're in your 20s, I was in a very, very successful performance group. And like we were, you saw these types of things. And this is why that was my last performance that I ever had. Um, and I had a lot of shame around dating someone who died of a drug overdose. And she said, no, this his soul is a very special soul, and he made a choice. And that connection that you had, and him being able to reach you and you being able to reach him, was the entire reason you were together, was the entire reason for the relationship. And so that really united us. And so there were moments when, like, 3, 4 years later, um, I would wonder, are we still connected? Okay. And then I would feel his presence, and then I'd walk inside, and like a very obscure Nick Cave song would be playing on the TV, which, uh, if you know Nick Cave, if anyone's a Nick Cave fan, it's a really rare music to have on a TV show. And so things like this were happening. And then when I started preparing to share my story, because I started hearing so many people talking about NDEs and shared death experiences, and I was like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. Like, that was literally a shared death experience. It was the moment I fell, the moment he died. I could not have moved, and I could not have, figured it out. And I felt the angels, and then I felt the connection. And so I started kind of piecing together the journey that we were on. And I started writing it out in my journals, writing it out in my notebooks. And I'm like, is this real? Is this real? I swear to God, this happened. I opened up my phone. I'm literally thinking, is this real? And I open up my phone, and it says, Gabe for reals just left you a message. Gabe for reals. And it was like someone on TikTok whose name was Gabe for reals, like, left me a message on TikTok for the first time, like the minute I was thinking that. So there was ongoing types of experiences like that.
First of all, I'm so sorry for the loss of your boyfriend. That had to have been devastating in your 20s plus you fell and you were injured. But I want to tell you, I not only believe your shared death experience, but I 100% believe that you had an experience with him in physical form. You are not the first person who I have talked to who's had an experience like that. And I've done enough and had enough experiences with my passed away loved ones to feel like when you were telling parts of your story, I felt like I was you and you were me. So thank you for having the vulnerability to share this. And you mentioned in the beginning that you feel you a little bit reluctant to share it because, people don't believe it. I want to tell you how amazing people on this show are in the comments. The comments are 98% so kind. So, so, so kind. So you're in a safe place and you're in a great place and you're going to help a lot of people because, like I always say, your signs and synchronicities, your experiences confirm others. So thank you for that. But I have so many questions. This is so crazy. And I saw you wipe away a tear. How
Thank
long ago?
you.
How long ago was this?
Well, it was 2000. So yeah, it's been a long time. What are
26
we,
years.
26 years? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, what I also find incredible is that you were told by somebody outside of you who didn't know you, didn't know the experience, that the whole reason you two came together was to work together. And that was the same for my passed away loved one. I wouldn't be doing this show if it hadn't been for his loss. No way. I don't think I would have been on the same spiritual path that I went on because of his loss, because of the searching and the seeking. So I think it's
Yeah.
incredible that you had an experience like that and that you still have a connection. So I don't know back then how verifiable things like this were, but obviously you're in a show when you fell. They know exactly when this happened. It's being videotaped. Somebody is watching the clock and knows when this happened. Was he with other people where they knew his time of death, or was he found? Were you ever able to
Oh.
verify if that was the same moment?
Um, Not the same moment, just the same within the same time frame that it was that night. But not the same moment. But I also think that it is possible that when someone dies of a drug overdose, there may be, maybe not all of them, but there's, a period of time where maybe the you're in between, and
Yeah.
I don't know how long the stages last, but it's not they I mean, they didn't do any research on the exact time of death or anything, but we do know it was that night.
Okay, so you have this experience and now are you kind of in and out of consciousness during those 3 weeks?
Yes.
So, can you remember specific connections or specific experiences you had? Because I've also talked to people that have a lot of these coma experiences, and they're quite incredible on their own because your body's in a different state of being, your brain waves are in a different state, and I think it opens you up to be able to connect so much more easily with the other side.
I wasn't in a coma. I was awake. I just was really unable to move. Just the injury was really in my back and my hips. So I wasn't in a coma knocked out, but I was in and out just because of the injury. And I was connected with um I was connected with the spiritual experience that we were going through together. And just also the loss, because when you find out someone has just died, it alters your consciousness, as you know, if you've had a loss like that, especially when you're in your 20s and you've just had a fall. So I was in and out of just experiencing, and also I was going through healing. So I brought shamans into the room and hands-on healers. And so it was a transcendent experience, just healing my body. I don't really feel that I was aware of the other side at that time. I just know that I was in states of frequency of light, and I had a lot of visions of what I thought was the Christ. Now his name is Gabe, so I also feel like it's kind of like Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel is what I was experiencing. And then after I was able to visit his room, the craziest part was that and this is not a religious person, okay? Obviously he died of a drug overdose. He was a musician and an artist. But when I went in this room, everything was cleared out except this picture of the Christ with wings and like a heart in the middle. And so it was like, I mean, I felt that that was the kind of the communication was like the wings, the light, the Christ frequency, the connection with his soul. But I don't remember anything at that point where I was reaching the other side. I did have, after that, as I said, I stopped performing. My life really, that was my last performance. My life really radically changed. And I started studying with a spiritual awakened master for 2 years. So my whole life was kind of on a really intense spiritual journey after that. So it opened the door to my spiritual path, my spiritual union with spiritual teachers, and the rest of my life. But and when I hear people's near death experiences and they talk about the love and the vibration and the frequency of love, that was happening during the healing. So, and when I hear people share their experiences, I do feel that that is what was happening to me, but it wasn't. The messages like There was no specific, um, you know, guides that I could see, but the vibration and the frequency and the loving and the healing, those energies and that experience completely transformed my whole body. First, I was able to heal, and second, it opened the door to a really deep spiritual awakening. So I do think that that liminal stage when I was knocked out and healing was transformational, and was energetic, spiritual, but again, I didn't see the types of things that a lot of people see in those, types of journeys.
Yeah, but you did see angels and you were moved by angels. Can you
Yes.
describe what they look like?
My experience was like vibrational frequency of light with like wing shapes. So my experience was energetic frequency and sort of just especially the night of the fall. The night of the fall, it was just complete white. And then the vibration and frequency of it felt like someone pushed wings out my back and moved me. And so, and also what happened was the other person who was in the audience who did film this fall, I've never spoken to again. I don't know where that footage is. I'm sure he has it somewhere, but uh the level of pain and shame, and that was probably the worst kind of breakup, when you're in your 20s, and he left me for another dancer in our dance company, and it was a huge drama, and it was, really exposed. And so the level of pain and shame that went along with falling in front of an audience in front of him, and the embarrassment, all of that was completely removed by an angelic presence, where I saw all of the storyline being erased, all of the drama being erased, that even with the ex who had betrayed me and made a huge drama and all of the things was completely removed. And it was just like a transcendent, it wasn't just physical, it was also like storyline and lineage and clearing of the past dramas and preparing me for an entirely new spiritual path. So the energy was more profound than anything else, of the clearing of the pain and the drama that I was mixed up in. When you're in your 20s and you're in a successful kind of group like that, I was in San Francisco. I mean, the stories, the performing with like bands like Jane's Addiction, like big events and big dramas. There's so much ego involved and so much just complete drama. And so to have that kind of brushed clean, in one experience, that's what it felt like. And it felt like the angelic presence didn't leave. I mean, it just really didn't. It was always kind of the door open to the other side, and the vibration and the frequencies, um they always stay with me. And but the way that they came in visually was like almost literally like oh my god, this is also what happened with my dad. um was when I saw his wings, it's like it was like a light around the person, and then it kind of lit up like a Christmas bulb. It's like you see the fire, the vibration, you see the frequency, and then it's like the lights kind of turn on around the edges. And that was how I saw it with my dad also.
That's incredible. All right, let's go back to when you see Gabe in physical form. So he's gone, you know he's died, and yet here he is in front of you physically. First of all, what in the world did you think, and how did he communicate with you?
Okay, so I was scared. I really honestly was scared, and I wasn't, and it's such a bummer now. And I always wish I was like, okay, let's sit, let's talk, let's do, like I wish I could have been more available. I was immediately scared because it was so shocking. And so I was immediately resistant, like, I can't see you right now. And the way I guess we communicated was the message came through voice, sound, and words, but I do believe it was more telepathic than anything else. But it was that one specific line. And then he was so physical with his hands to make sure that I felt him, that I could feel him physically. And that was all that was said. I'm here to teach you that separation's illusion, and to feel that we were here, and the connection with him far exceeds the actual physical relationship we had. It wasn't, I mean, we were close, but we were not that close. For whatever reason, his ability to communicate in this realm is special, according to some of the spiritual teachers that I've talked to. And then, you know, at that time in my life, because I was going through such a shift, I was leaving a career, I just had this fall, I just had this miracle healing. I was completely open and available to it as well. So it was a sacred moment and a sacred time. And like you said, and like I said earlier, that was the reason we met and were together, was this moment over here on the other side. And so it was a sacred communication, and really the sacredness of touching and being touched by someone on the other side in a physical. I mean, it's extraordinary.
It's not super common. So I know two people who have had an experience like this. And for one, it changed everything about her life, how she
Yes.
does things, what she does for a living, like all kinds of things got shifted because of that. It was so profound for her. But he said to you, separation is an illusion. Is that something that you believed at that moment in time that he said it? Did you even understand that message in that moment?
To be honest with you, it is kind of an obvious thing, like, okay, we're separated, but we're not. And I did sort of hear that term before. But what's interesting is that after this, and both my parents transition, and after both of them transition, I had another kind of shared death with my dad, and just a beautiful experience with my mom. And then after that, I started going, I really want more information about death. And after I've had all these experiences, I still was in like doubt. And so that's when I started finding out about Dolores Cannon. And then I was like really researching, and then I stumbled onto the NDE videos and hearing people talk, and then it started to put all the pieces together. And this is in 2000, and this is like my first time really sharing this, so this is how long it really took me to really integrate. So I would say that no, I didn't really get it at that moment, because we're so in the material plane. And even though I am it changed my whole life as well. I mean, I left my career, I left everybody I knew, I packed up my life and fitted into a two-seater Miata convertible and drove. Yes, I drove to another city. I lived with a spiritual teacher for 2 years. My whole life completely transformed. So this was absolutely life changing for me as well. And yet, even still, with all of that, it's still shocking to know that that's how long it takes to really get through the material density of our doubts, our fears, our anxieties, our day to day, like paying the bills and taking care of the business, whatever it is we've got going on. So, I really do think that your question is so stunning, because you're right. Even though it seems obvious, he's touching me, he's dead, he's on the other side. It really took years and years and years to process and really embody, what happened.
I bet. Okay. Well, I want to hear about your shared experience with your dad.
Yeah, yeah. So, me and my dad had a very rocky, challenging relationship, and we really didn't find our love until he transitioned. But because it was so rocky, it's karmic, right? Really, really karmic. And so when he transitioned, I immediately was connected to him. He died in so we live in LA, and he was in a wedding. He went to a wedding in Nashville, Tennessee. And so he was, he was dying. My mom said he's here and he's not going to make it. So I, within 24 hours, got on a flight, was there, and walked him through the transition. Somehow, I just knew exactly what to say, walk into the light, stay present, and was kind of guiding him through this whole experience of his transition. So he died in Nashville, and then we had to take him back on a plane, his body, after he had transitioned. And my mom couldn't handle, we had his funeral. My mom couldn't handle the situation of his stuff, and his suitcase didn't get unpacked. So I ended up in the house that my mom and dad were living in, and I stayed there to clean and get his stuff. And so it was me alone in this house that I grew up in, and that, my dad and mom had been living in. And it was about a 3-month period. So during this 3-month period, I started having experiences with my dad. And I mean, they're crazy stories. Starting with he had this music stand. He was a musician also. He had a music stand that he kept his clothes on. And so I'd gone through all of his clothes except for this music stand. And then finally I was like, okay, dad, it's time for me to get rid of the music stand. And so I took the music stand, I put it in the garage, and then I went to bed. And then the next day, or it was like 2 days later, I come back and the music stand is back in the spot. So I'm freaking out. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe this. How did it move? Blah, blah, blah. And it turns out it's not so metaphysical. It was the woman we have who was cleaning the house. She took it from the garage and moved it back. But the funny thing is that she said my dad is in the house and he told her to move it. So she was having an experience too. So, but that was just kind of like the introduction. And then what started to happen was, it started first with a dream. I woke up and I walked outside, and my dad was sitting in the grass and he was facing the ocean. And he said, I'm going through my life review. And for 3 months, I started going through all of his life journey lessons with him. So it started with this first dream, and he said he was learning about friendship, and he was taking me through the journey of friendship and what he was going through. And then we ended up, this all of the stuff with my dad really happened in dream form, like what seemed like dreams that were not dreams, right? And one where I woke up and I was at the my high school, when me and my dad, he lost his business, he was going through depression, and he couldn't show up for my graduation, he couldn't really show up for me, but we were sitting on the bleachers together. And I said, dad, I just love you so much. I don't understand how we couldn't love each other in our life. And we sort of detailed like why we couldn't reach the state of love while we were in physical form, and while we were going through this stage. And like we went through the entire life review, stage by stage by stage. And then this is what I was when I was telling you about the angels, this part of it, after this period, it was like months of his life, his lessons, what he was learning. And what was that kept happening was I'd wake up and I'd walk outside and I'd open the door and I'd see him in his life reviews. This happened several times. And the last time it happened, I had opened the door and that exact happened. I saw his wings sprout from his back and like these little light bulbs just ding, 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 ding. Like I saw his wings. He earned his wings and he started to fly. So it was just like the most profound experience. So it was me and my dad in this house, and he was going through his life review, and I was there cleaning up and like experiencing this transition. And there was another moment too that I can't even articulate. It was so like um there were so many moments. There were so many things like that that happened. Uh but yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. That was the journey pretty much with my dad.
So, again, I am so sorry that you lost your dad. But what a beautiful experience to have a life review. You don't know this, but life reviews are pretty much the main reason that I do NDE interviews because I became obsessed with them. I believe that they have the biggest ability to impact people who hear them because you understand on a level, kind of to the point of Gabe, that we are one, and what you do to another, you are in the most literal sense of that doing to yourself. And you're nodding, and I love this. And I'm so curious, will you please, please, please share some other things that you experience, if it's not too personal, about the life review, other than the friendship and analyzing the friendships, and maybe even what the gist was that he was reviewing, learning, understanding about friendships? I think this will be valuable for a lot of people.
Yeah, so, I think that men of that generation, they don't open their hearts and they're not intimate. I mean, he was not intimate with me. He was not intimate with his friends. And so the experience was that contemplation. It was the contemplation of what it meant to have the intimacy with friends. You know, the other there was another piece with my cousin who is my dad's, my dad was his uncle. And so he was, a role model to this cousin. And there was a, there was addiction running through my family lineage. And, obviously I had a boyfriend die of addiction. My dad had an eating, he was a binge eater, died of really like obesity. And so there was this watching of how these lines were coming through and affecting the intimacy. And I'm telling you this because I'm getting broad strokes as I'm with him. Primarily what I saw and what I was witnessing was him sitting at a table in front of an ocean. And so he was sitting at a table in front of an ocean. His feet were, the water was like coming up, and he was taking notes on like the intimacy, the addiction, how the inability to be intimate was affecting his ability to, deal with the addiction. And then, so I was kind of seeing these through lines, and it wasn't so clear because, for me it's coming in dream stages. So I can't say that I'm getting as extreme of a life review as people who experience them, but I'm getting like the glimpses and like the learning stages and the pieces about addiction. And then of course the addiction had passed to me through eating disorders as a young, person. And so and really I had been working on healing my body for many years before this point, and I think I'd already completely healed that. But I mean, even still to this day, when I heal and go deeper into healing of my body, it transforms my spiritual connection to the source. And so I think that, it was a message for me as well, obviously, around the healing of the body and healing of the addictions. And so the cousin, I found out I didn't, so even during this time when I was with him during his processing of this, I didn't know that he was a heroin addict, my cousin. I found this out literally, I mean, less than a year ago. Uh, the stories were starting to come about how my dad helped this cousin. And so during the near the life review, it was just these themes of like intimacy, addiction, friendship, and then these scenes that we had together in the high school and these kinds of pieces. I can't. It's not like as clear as the themes and overcoming certain types of addiction, certain types of intimacy. It wasn't the level of life review that that people share. And I would say that the only reason I knew that it was a life review is after listening to all the NDE stories. And then I started piece together that I watched him, and it was so um it had such a finality to it because he earned his wings. That was the last time that I saw that experience, was him gaining the wings. So it was like sort of me trying to kind of piece together all of these things. But it was very, very profound. And I have also a really intense time with my mom on the other side, but nothing like this. Nothing where we go kind of piece by piece through the journey. Like that was really different. But it's hard for me to really articulate, and I don't know if I'm even doing a good job, but I hope
Oh,
I'm
no,
getting
you're doing a great job. You are. And this is super helpful. But I'm curious because you've lived this through this third party state. The first thing I want to know is, did this help you in some way to understand your dad and why he was where he was?
Yes. And the main thing is also, okay, so in high school, the interesting piece was in high school, everyone else had left. My siblings had already gone away to college, and my mom was working full time. So in the house was just me and my dad. He lost a business and went through depression, and I absorbed that depression. At least that's the story I told myself at the time. And so I felt karmically tied in the negative to my dad's addiction. And then when I finally did leave home, like my first year in college, I really, really struggled with eating disorders. That was really, really challenging for me. So all what I did was blame my dad for everything bad that I was dealing with, and that he didn't heal himself. He never got himself together. And I had so much anger, so much hatred for somebody who was just depressed and not dealing with what they were going through. So the time when he went through his transition and we really were able to merge our hearts and go into the healing, loving realm, and I was able to see the pain that he was in, his generation, the main thing was that inability to really open up the heart to the intimacy. And if you don't have that intimacy with your own heart and your own life, then the food fills in and it becomes your enemy, but your best friend and your nurturer. And so the biggest issue I've ever had in my life is this eating stuff. And me and my dad shared that. And so instead of becoming enemies, we became shared souls in a sacred journey together. And as my dad didn't really heal before he died. He died of heart disease, and like he was obese, and he had zero. Although, there was another I was going to say I had zero consciousness of death, but the funny thing was that I did read also all of his journals, because I was cleaning up all of his stuff. And his last year, he was questioning what death was. He was asking questions. What is death? He was preparing his soul. So he had done some kind of preparation. But then again, like reading your dad's journals and going through, that was, I think, also part of the psyche, was going through his journals as well. And then seeing his soul um, making these leaps and growth, was able to really help me have compassion and healing. And I think really do the deeper level of my own healing. And now, I mean, the level of healing and work that I've done, I have zero stuff around food anymore. And like that seems like it was decades ago. And the connection every time my soul is asking me, even this past month, I was asked to do another level of soul growth work when I entered into the Kabbalah. The first stage was the message from the divine source was to do a 40-day cleanse. And it was like a very spiritual 40-day cleanse. And so whenever I go deeper and deeper into cleansing my physical body, I go higher and higher into my spiritual realms. So I think that the addiction, the food addiction that my dad and I were merging with as souls, that was a place of real soul transformation. And that was a place where we on the physical, it looks so toxic and so destructive, but it was our souls placing that there for us to have the greatest level of wisdom and transformation and depth. And so that was really the communication was like, we created this, we did this together, our souls, like it was our wisdom that created the hardest place in my life was healing that, but the greatest liberation and also the greatest place of spiritual transformation. And the fact that I was able to do it and he was not, I still feel him all the time. Like, woohoo, go girl, like the applauding the spiritual work. And that was kind of our soul's agreement was to pass down. And it wasn't just the food, it was also the business because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a spiritual business. And, you probably relate to this. It's like this is a very intense journey to make money as a spiritual teacher. And so I left a corporate career, a high paying corporate career. And so that journey is scary. And when you've had a family, my father was an entrepreneur and lose a business, your whole life be rocked by financial worry and debt and fear. I mean, my mom picked up the slack because she had gotten a job and she started working full time. But my dad still went through the pain of that, the depression of financial loss. And so that was another thing that I absorbed that in his life review, it was also about that financial loss. So it was like addiction, friendship, financial, like all of the biggest things that I feel like I absorbed with my father got processed and healed as I watched him process and heal. So it was like his experience, as he was healing to get his wings, I was able to bring forward on the material world and here, like while still alive. And that's the greatest gift, I think. One of the things I tell myself, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I do feel like because I didn't actually have a near death experience myself on the other side, there's something about the reach, like because it's the reach to the other side, like without the transition, like that reach, that was a long reach. And so that was really a strong buildup of the material plane, the density of the material plane, and the stages and the steps that you need to take in order to reach those spiritual levels and spiritual transformations that our souls are longing for. Our souls are longing to communicate with us. and the other side is longing to be with us, but there's so much block and resistance, and it's so hard to get to that place. That's one of the gifts that he was able to give me, and I was also able to receive and implement into the daily, into the daily transformations. So the gifts that he gave me, even in like the most toxic of our relationship, have been very, very profound. Yeah.
I wrote down one thing. What a gift he gave you. And you just said it twice. And I was thinking, wow, I can only imagine how many people in the audience are listening and wishing that they had an opportunity to mitigate and to understand things about their childhood and their parents that they can't understand without a perspective like this. Like, seriously, this is such a massive gift. I've never heard anybody have an experience quite like this. I'm so thrilled that you're sharing this. But I'm also curious because this had to have changed you in a few ways. Like, how did this affect relationships that you had going forward in this moment? And also, how you just conducted yourself in your life in general with this information?
Well, so that was the year I went back to get my master's degree in spiritual psychology. So I realized that I needed tools to begin the journey of helping people to unravel these places inside of themselves and discover what exactly is happening here. And so my life did really change from that point forward, became more aware and conscious of the healing of the psyche, because psychology, so the spiritual psychology is a tool to um unravel from the points of pain, the points of trauma, the points of places in your life that are not working out, and figuring out what the originating point is, and then beginning the process of dismantling and healing around it. And so I do think that that experience with my dad was the first sort of initial journey. And then that year going into the master's degree program, I started to learn it on a very practical level and started to see how to walk other people through these types of things and how we can do it. We can talk ourselves through healing of relationships, and every relationship, especially the ones that are karmic, whether it's the father, sister, marriage or friendship. We know the karmic ones, the ones that break our hearts, the ones that are intense, the ones that are painful. Those are the ones that create soul level healings. And the other, so with a relationship like this with my dad, as you heard, my first experience, I dated a lot of addicts, and there's a lot of pain around that type of thing. And I continued to do that even after my dad had died. um, and it took me another 10 years before I found my soulmate. So literally, like, when you have, so even though you have these transcendent healing moments, like, matter is hard to change. And if you're used to love being a certain way, like love is addiction, love is toxic people who, don't know how to feel, don't have intimacy, like those patterns repeated. And I knew enough not to get married because I knew I hadn't found it yet. And even after I did my master's degree in spiritual psychology and all of the work I did on myself, I didn't meet my soulmate until I was 43. And then we got married at wait, no, I met him at 45 and we got married at 54. I was 54. So it took us a long time. And now we have a really healthy, intimate, deep, loving, like profound relationship, but it's like one of my lifelong accomplishments, because when you have a family that's when you have a father and you know have that addiction as a primary source of love and nurture, it takes a long time to unravel it. So I think it's been a lifelong journey to see what happened with my dad, move out of the anger, move out of the resentment, the blame, because I really blamed him. Even every time I failed a business or had a bad investment, it was like, why my dad didn't give me a backbone. I didn't have a strong male figure, like it's just so easy to blame. And to finally move past and see that our souls agreed to that. And so it is the experience. And then it's also the physical mapping and the tools that are available. Remember, we have so many tools of healing available for us now. And that's the gift of this time. These podcasts, these speakings, and and the books and so many tools. And I always tell people, if you don't have that tool yet, you're still in some type of karmic patterns, addictions, business losses, like there is a tool that helps. And I think this is why we're here. We're here to learn and to know that the spiritual realm, the unseen realm, is here with us right now. Separation's an illusion, and that the tools are available for us to tap into the spiritual truth, and the spiritual truth can transform our physical world. So that is the journey I've been on, and that is what I've been doing. And I think the greatest gift now is being with my soulmate and being in a healthy relationship after all those years. It's been quite a journey.
Wow. I think, in addition to separation being an illusion, what I love is the illustration of how entangled we are with other. How entangled you were with your boyfriend, even though it was a super short 3 to 6 month relationship. How entangled you were with your dad, and how without that experience, you would not necessarily be in the place where you are now to help so many other people. And we sometimes look at these terrible things that happen to us, and we, like you said, become the victim, when really, if we can recognize that everything is happening for us, and if we're mad about it, it's just because we don't understand how, why, or what it's going to do to transform us. And then when we start to get glimpses of that, we can start to let go of that anger and understand really it is all for our highest and greatest good. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh my God, absolutely. Once we come into the realization that our soul is working with us, our soul is actively wanting to give us blessings, actively wanting to give us gifts, wanting to work with us. So the minute something comes up against, like it looks like a fallout, it looks like a loss, it looks like a breakup, you have a choice point. Either you're going to add negativity and you're going to add the fear and you're going to drop down to repeating that pattern again and again and again, or you see it as a gift, you see it as a soul transforming opportunity, you see it as a healing opportunity, and start transcending the way in which you think about things. And that was again a lot that I learned with from my dad, is the way in which you think about things. Your thoughts turn to light. Your thoughts need to turn to alignment to the light, where we're thinking more in alignment with the divine source. And the more we tune into the alignment of the divine source, the more the miracles come in, the transformations come in, the angels can work with us, guide us. And I do believe there's clear maps to the soul and to the unseen world. I've heard this on other NDEs as well. There's like, it's very systematic. It's a complete system. I mean, how could it not be? Look at here. Look at the birthing of a baby. Look at plants. Look at how the intricacy of quantum physics and sacred geometry. Like it's a system. And of course, the unseen spiritual realm is going to be a system as well. And so there are maps, there's guidance, there are tools to support us. And I do think like any type of like tools that you can implement, it's just relieving of the suffering. It's relieving of the patterns and the karmic pains that we're in, the financial losses. It doesn't have to be painful once you realize, like, what a gift this world is giving me to find and to actually earn the connection, the reach to the unseen world. And then, like, things get easier, miracles happen, and then things feel great, and when you're
And then you're in
touching
love
that,
with your life.
you're in love with your life. Exactly. Exactly. And the synchronicities, and like there's times when you're just laughing because the synchronicities, like, no one would believe this. Like, there's
Yes.
so many synchronicities, and so many beautiful things.
Now, I know you work with some of these extraordinary tools, and we're going to share them in just a minute, but you also said that you had a shared death experience that was very beautiful with your mom, and I would be remiss if I skipped over that and I didn't hear it. I need to hear that one too, please.
Okay, so my mom was very different. And here's the other thing. I love what you mentioned about how tied and up we are with our loved ones. And they're so unique and they're so different. When my mom made her transition, it was so intense. She got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, went in the hospital, and she died in 10 days. So it was like, I mean, and no one saw it. We knew she wasn't feeling good, but we didn't not, she wasn't someone who suffered, and she was so healthy. So the 10-day process, oh my God, I'm just remembering something else that happened. Yes. So the 10-day process, when she was going through this 10-day process, I was there every minute. Of course, me and my sister, we were there, my brother, we were there the whole time. And it was so extreme to see someone die that quickly. And there was one day when I was there by myself. I had been working with her through meditating. She'd never meditated in her life before. As a matter of fact, both my siblings said, don't talk about holistic, because I'm a holistic healer. I would have wanted to take her to do holistic. Don't ever talk about that. Don't mention it. My mom started, as things were getting progressively worse, she said, I wish I would have listened to you about the holistic. So she was having these experiences in these 10 days. But there was one moment of time when I was there alone with her, when everything took a turn for the worse. And I had been with her, and I stepped outside to work on my laptop because I was working in corporate. And so I was working on my laptop, and I came back, and she was completely in another. That was when she started to die. And I was freaking out. I was crying, and I really blamed myself. I thought it was all my fault. This is what happens when people die. You think you can't help it, you think it's your fault. So, what had happened, and this is, I can't believe the gift I'm to share this. I just want to thank you so much for this, because this is now the memory of what happened. So, um, 3 days before she was diagnosed, nobody knew that she was sick. Nobody knew what was happening. 3 days before, my dad and my grandmother, it was again slight dream state. So I was sleeping, I woke up, and they were sitting in the corner of my room. So this was 3 days before, and they were literally talking as though they had just, you know, we're having just a casual conversation. So they were there in my room chatting. And I was like, oh my God, I just had a visitation from my dad and my grandma. So it was my mom's mom. And so oh, the baby, love you. So the
Liz heard
beautiful,
you talking about these things and she came out to say
I
hello.
know, she's like,
She
they're
doesn't make
so,
that many appearances on the show, but
it's
she
so
heard something and she came
beautiful.
out.
I am so obsessed with my dog too. Like, they're such incredible,
I
talk
know.
about soulmates.
We'll talk
So
about unconditional love too, but yeah, sorry.
talk about all the gifts of, yes.
Yes.
So they had shown up 3 days before. And so the message was that they were coming to get her. And what happened was, when I started to blame myself, so she died within the next 3 days, after I had been working on my laptop, came back, and then within 3 days she died. And so with her, a shared death experiences, it was more just a beautiful transition with her soul, because we were meditating on the flowers. And when she was sick, I was guiding her through meditations, through the flowers, through the gardens. And so then what my mom did is she managed to put me in a hotel because we had been there for 10 days and I started to get a hotel. She put me in a hotel because I didn't see where I had ended up. When you're in a state like that, taking someone through the transition again, 10 days, like you're just in a blur. So I get the call. I'm at the hotel. I get the call. Your mom's making her transition. I wake up and literally there is flowers on every single wall that I just hadn't noticed going in. All of a sudden, every picture was a flower. Every picture was like the garden. Everywhere I turned, it was like I walked in the elevator, they had a picture. I walked downstairs, it was like she was guiding me through this garden experience. And the the main message that comes through with my mom. So there was this beautiful transition through the flowers. And so every flower that I saw after that, I could feel her presence. So she came through the flowers and she came through like this experience of the garden. And then her birthday is September 1st and she died on 9/11. Okay, so it was in that 10-day period. So every September 1st, her soul comes through and she for 11 those 10 days 11 days she's providing me with messages and information about um, our shared mother-daughter experience. And one of the most intense things that happened was when she died. I was going through her things and my sister wrote her this letter a couple years earlier that said, you're not only my mom, you're my best friend. And that hurt me so dramatically because not only, is I thought my sister and I were close friends, but it's your mom. So it's like your mom and your sister are best friends and I always felt like I was the outsider. I'm always the black sheep. I'm the spiritual woo-woo. People made fun of me my whole life. But when I actually saw it in writing and my mom held it like in a sacred, like she had it in like a sacred box that was like sealed, that was like something my sister had wrote to her. And so during this time, my mom literally, like, that letter appeared. I can't even explain how it happened. Like, it had been in my stuff and she showed me and apologized like for that experience. Like she knew how deeply that and profoundly that hurt me. And so with my mom, it was more just like messages like that, and so different than with my dad. I mean, it wasn't, I think with my dad, much more karmic, much more entwined. With my mom was just beautiful and messages and love. But I think that, when it started with Gabe, really the truth is when somebody is dying in my life, what I found is that my heart connection and the soul connection is there. And I've seen my mom several times in dreams and that kind of thing, but there's like the messages. I mean, the level of communication is just, the door is open for people that I'm entangled with and love. And so I would say my mom out of the three is the least. But also, and we also had the least complicated relationship, the least painful, the least, the biggest pain I had was that her and my sister were like best friends, and they kind of, I didn't have a relationship really with either of them in that degree. And it wasn't exactly that I wanted it, but it's just hurtful. So my mom, her soul apologized to me for that. And so it's things like that with my mom. I would say not as dramatic, but beautiful, very beautiful.
Well, again, I'm so sorry for the loss of your mom, especially with ovarian cancer, still so deadly. So beautiful, though, that you got to connect with all of these passed away loved ones on such a profound level.
Yes, exactly. And I think that hearing so many people's stories and hearing the shared death experiences, um, it was so helpful because when you really cherish and you really understand, it makes it deeper and it helps you in your current life. It helps you navigate so many things and know how close you are and how deeply we have set before us the stage of souls gathering here and their experiences here. So I'm so grateful to really have um been able to talk it through to this degree because it's really helpful and it's just an incredible heart opening to feel the other side. And every time you kind of share and you open, you can kind of feel that they're right here with us, you know? So we're kind of pulling it in as we talk about it.
I love that. I'm so grateful that you've shared all this, but we did also promise that you have some pretty unique tools that you use, including human design and so many other things. So tell people from your professional, spiritual degree in psychology what tools they can use that might be helpful on their own journey.
Yeah, so I think, after the main spiritual experience with Gabe and coming back, I was only 30 years old. I was very disconnected. I was having these spiritual experience, but I wasn't grounded. I didn't really know how to make a living at this point, coming from a dance career. And, I didn't know how to exist on this earth plane. So I kind of stuffed my spiritual stuff down a bit to get the corporate career and start working. And so my life has been trying to merge these two and trying to figure out how to really tap into the spiritual and keep and then be grounded and in the material plane. And the first place I turned to leaving corporate was finding out that I was a splenic projector in human design. So I had been trying manifestation tools and I did my master's degree but hadn't done a spiritual career. And so I couldn't understand how to make that transition. And learning I was a splenic projector just opened up the door. So if you don't know your type in human design, just check it out. Check it out, find out what type you are. There's like four or five there's four types. Some people say five. And they teach you how to exist here on the earth plane. And it merges this astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, and the neutrino physics, quantum physics, the I Ching. It's all tied together in human design. And so for the last 10 years, I've been teaching human design, certifying students on how to read human design charts. And then, literally within the last year, I started cracking open the Kabbalah, which is the spiritual message underneath, which is really like the human design is the map of the physical world, your mental plane. And then the Kabbalah is the map of the soul, and they talk about the soul's journey, the reincarnation. They actually show you exactly how the soul is meant to exist here on the earth plane. And so now it feels like these two systems are coming together to just really help people to find their purpose, their career, their spiritual understanding. And it's very practical. And I'm in a stage now where I really think practicality is important and learning how to have a business you love your life, have abundance, have all the crystals that you want. It's so important. So I really like to merge like the spiritual and the practical for really like manifestation and having like healed great life. So those are the tools that I use and they're really fun. Are you checking out your human design?
I can't remember what it is. So I have to tell you this really funny story, actually. So in 2017, I started dating this guy, and he was totally into human design, and I really didn't know he was. And he's kind of casually, like on the first couple of dates, like, yeah, oh, what's your human design? And I was like, I don't know. So I gave him all the information, And I found out later after he generated the report that if I had been a certain human design, he would not have even continued dating me. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
what in the world? So I had a book for a long time. I mean, this is a while ago. This is 2017. And I had a book and I used to know what I was. And so I put my stuff in just now while you were talking because I was like, I've got to figure out what I am so she would know how to talk to me. And it says that my type is a gener. So for people who are watching, it's just super simple. It's kind of like astrology. You're where you're born, the time that you're born, your, birth date. So it says I'm a generator, and inner authority is sacral, definition is split definition, profile 5-1, and strategy to respond. So,
Nice. I'm a 512. That's
okay.
the investigator. So
Okay.
why we love to investigate, go deeper, go deeper. We want to find out more. We want to go deeper. And
I
then the
don't know what you're talking about.
right? And then the line five is the heretic. And it's really, the probably what you lead with, it's a lot of the leader and the heresy, like, talking about these things that general population is like, whoa, that's weird. So standing in your heresy, and then like the generator and the sacral is basically what human design is saying is that we evolved from a seven-centered chakra being into a nine-centered being, and that we're in a stage of evolution and we're evolving out of the mind as the authority to the vehicle intelligence as the authority. So the mind is outdated. So if you're trying too hard to think about what to do or mentally figure it out, we all kind of know that on a spiritual path, that people will tell you things like, follow your intuition, follow your gut, or follow your heart. Because the mind, when it overthinks, it causes panic, anxiety, and all kinds of toxicity. And so human design shows you the map and says that each person is uniquely designed to make decisions based on their vehicle intelligence. For you, it's called sacral, which is a deep, deep guttural, like yes or no. So you probably have moments when you get like the, oh, hell yes, I'm doing it.
Yes, it's so funny that you would say that because as I've gotten older, if I can't decide, the answer's no.
No. Yep. Good for you. And that's what it
Took me
is.
a
It's
long time to get to this place and understand that.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And the human design is kind of a fast track on that one because the sacral, like it teaches you how to get a like it's really guttural, uh-huh, uh-uh. And they retrain you from thinking in your mind, what should I do, to like really listening, And with the sacral, you get it almost immediate if you
Hmm.
drop into the deep part where it's like really guttural. It's like a sound, and so it's like retraining how we've been conditioned to make decisions, retraining the ways in which we were told to operate, and discovering your unique way of being. And it is, I'm telling you, it's uncanny. I've worked with thousands of people now, and almost everybody's life becomes easier, smoother, like the path just finds a way. And so it's on the material plane. So the human design is a mental material plane for the Maya, the illusion, how to make a better life. And the Kabbalah is really all the spiritual. It's the map of reincarnation. It's the map of the unseen world, and it's really systematic as well. And so these are the tools I'm obsessed with. I'm an investigator too, and I one of my favorite things to do is study stuff. And I know it's crazy, but I love to study. And so this is my new deep dive, is like understanding the Kabbalah and where it fits into human design, because it's the one piece people don't talk that much about. There's a lot of talk about the I Ching and the chakras and astrology, of course. And so the Kabbalah is really new, and it's so good. It's so beautiful. It's so profound, and life changing. But we're always growing and changing and learning new things. I mean, most people who are listening to this channel are growing and changing and wanting to learn something new about their soul, or they wouldn't be here, or they want to connect into
Absolutely.
the
Especially
deeper.
if they're here with us all the way out to, I don't even know what time it is. My phone died I always keep a timer on this to see how I make notes on the interview. But I have a question for you. Did you, when you met your soulmate, did you make him get this information before you got too far into dating him?
Well, you know what's so crazy is I didn't even know about it. He's the one who got me into it.
Oh, oh, so did he do that to you?
He didn't, he was new to it also. So
Okay.
our relationship was really like we both were into esoteric information. So we were kind of reading books and interested in these things. And he brought it to me. We had already been dating maybe 6 months. And he said, "Hey, have you heard of this thing?" So neither one of us were that into it. So he said, "Have you heard of this thing?" I'm like, "No." And I was kind of resistant. And then he goes, "You got to look at this, And then he's like, "You're a projector. Like, you got to understand this." And then he started sending me videos from my teacher, John Martin. And I was like, "Oh my God." And then he was like, "Oh my God." Like, we both sort of had the aha moments. So we went through it. So I went through my certification first, and then he went. We were both in corporate. I left my corporate career first, then he left his. So we both like have been on this journey, and now it's the Kabbalah. So like we both were like, "Oh my God." And now we're taking classes on that. So we just have been doing this journey together.
How
And it's a shared
beautiful.
language, really is so helpful in our relationship because it's like, okay, you're like that and I'm like this. So let's let each other be each other. You be you, we be you. So I think that when someone judges based on someone's chart, they're not really understanding the system, because it's not about saying, "Oh, we should date if you have this or you have that." It's about taking on the experiment, which is like, would you be willing to follow your inner authority rather than your mind? And if your inner authority gives you a yes, then that's the truth. So it's trusting your own inner authority. So it's not like, "Oh, you should date this person or that person." It's not something that's any type of a divination tool. It's a map of your inner authority, and then you're empowering people to make their own decisions. So anyways, that's just my sense on it, that person, whoever he was, it
He's
wasn't
gone.
exactly.
He's been gone a long time, for many good reasons. All right. I want to ask you one more question about this whole process with the human design, because I know that the person who created this also made some predictions, and there's one that's coming up pretty soon in 2027. And it's around what he predicted would happen. So, can you share this? I don't really know anything about it.
Yes. So really what it is the mapping of the cycles. So what he did is he saw the cycles of the stars, and he saw the astrological wheels, and so he saw that they were making a shift, and they go in 411-year cycles. So really what he was doing is mapping. The best way to explain it is he was mapping out the human design chart of all of humanity. And so he was saying, for the last 411 years, this is what we were experiencing. And basically, we were under tribal rule where family was really important. We had government. We built things through the collective. We had a deep sense of how to have a career. You work 9 to 5. And there was this established base that we've been in. And come 2027, which is next year, that entire base is transforming. And we're moving into a time that's called the era of the individual. It's also the cross of the sleeping phoenix. I like to say the rising phoenix. And what it is a time where we are moving into a spiritual awakening, where the emotional center, like what I was saying before, is the vehicle intelligence was moving. Now we're moving into a time when the emotional center is going to be as wise as the mind. So that means we're going to be able to feel emotionally the other being, kind of similar to the life reviews, where in the life reviews you can completely feel and hear the other person and what they're experiencing, right? So human design is saying we're moving into a time where we're going to have a consciousness with each other and a deeper emotional connection to the other. Now, everybody interprets this a little bit different too. So if you hear people talking about 2027, everyone's going to have a different kind of take on it, because it's how you interpret a chart. So in the same way of how somebody would read someone's human design chart differently, I'm going to read it more based on the unseen forces and the spiritual dynamic. Other people don't. So some people think that we're going to have like a big, crash and of the system and all that, because that's what they're looking at. I don't see the world in that way. But the era of the individual is also a time when authenticity is going to rule, and your unique experience is going to be the leader. So, what you've experienced in life, your own life wisdom, right? As opposed to your skills. So, skills were the leader of the last 411 years. If you are really good at something, you're master doctor, master accountant, then you're going to rise to the top. Or if you're an actor, then we don't care if you're a good person. Like that led the last 411 years, and that is flipping to it doesn't matter whether you're skilled or not. What matters is your development, your personal awareness. Do you know who you are? Can you speak your truth? Can you live your truth? So to me, we're in like this totally exciting time where we need to know who we are. And those people who were individuals on the outskirts, the black sheep of the family, the ones who are the odd men out, the oddballs, those are the ones that are now leading the way. And if you fit into a tribe, the real tribal dynamics and those dynamics are going to start to fall apart. We're already really seeing that. So, for those of you who have felt that you've been on the outside, you've been the lone black sheep, your time is coming.
It sounds like we're going to level up the emotional intelligence of the entire planet. And doesn't this also fit in with what NDEers and all these people who have had experiences are saying, that the collective is waking up and we are going to change how things are done?
Yes.
We're going to be
Yeah.
more
And
connected.
yes, I mean, and I think that also, some people won't.
Mm.
And that's part of it too, that maybe some people won't, but and maybe the separation gets bigger. But our love and compassion for everybody being uniquely where they are is going to be heightened. So being able to allow everyone to be where they are, mature when they're going to mature, and those people who are willing and wanting to be in the spiritual awareness, I think the doors are really going to be open, and there's going to be a lot more opportunity to really expand and see the unseen world and live there and let it be part of our lives.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Raquel, this has been such a fascinating conversation. I have loved every minute of my time with you. And I would imagine everybody watching is like, where can I find her? How can I work with her? So tell everybody like what you do, how they can work with you and connect with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved it too. I feel so seen and heard and held.
Oh,
And like
uh,
you said, this is such
you're
a
gonna make
safe
me
space.
cry.
Oh, God, I'm gonna cry. It was really just such a beautiful experience to be here with you. I am
Thank
so,
you.
so grateful for your space. So me and my husband, we do work together, RaquelandDavidian.com. We have a YouTube channel. Raquel,
Spell it for the people who are listening.
okay, so Raquel, Raquel, and Davidian, Davidian. And the YouTube is Unleash Your Genius. And then .com is the website. And we right now are running a 30-day challenge. So I don't know when this is going to be, but 30 days is a long, you could come anytime during the 30 days. We're running a 30-day challenge to learn your human design and understand it based on the Kabbalah. And so it's a spiritual journey. It's going to be completely unique spiritual experience, spiritual journey, and also learning your human design chart. So that where is that? Oh my God. I don't even know if we have that up on our website yet.
Well, do you know when you're gonna start it?
We're starting May 3rd.
Okay, we are right now in April. This will be released before May 3rd
Okay, so we
because I'm fast tracking it.
we have a specific link. So if if you want to make that available, do we have like a specific link if
Yeah, I could
anyone
put
was
that in the show notes for people if they're interested in it.
that'd be amazing. That'd
Yeah,
be amazing.
of course. Wow. Well, Raquel, I'm going to ask you one final question. And actually, I want to hear from the people who are watching. Like in the comments, if you got this far, you can just write collective, waking up the collective. But really, I would love to hear what resonated the most with you about Raquel's journey. Was it her shared death experience with her boyfriend, Gabe? Was it her life review that she went through after her father passed away with him? Was it her connection that she had with her mother's experience? Or maybe it was human design. We covered a lot of stuff. So I'd love to hear from you guys what really resonated with you. But I want to ask you one final question, which is,
Yes.
Raquel, what do you know for sure?
I know for sure that the other side is here, that separation is an illusion. And when you feel it, it's the feeling of love. And that love changes the negativity. And it is a practical force. It transforms your life and it's available to all of us at any time we're willing to open up to it.
Well, I think that's the mic drop comment. So, thank you so much for your vulnerability and wanting to share these very sacred experiences for the very first time. I am so grateful to be able to have had this conversation, and just thank you so much for what you are doing to wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
I thank you right back. It is so needed, and your work is so important and so beautiful. And I just feel so held and grateful to have been here with you. And I just adore you. So thank you so much.
I adore you too. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these experiences with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Bye, everyone.
This channel's for seekers, for hearts who remember there's something more. Subscribe to join the awakening.